All right, here with Unicorn for our super top secret conversation. Wanted to get with Unicorn and kind of discuss how things are going with the team, the off season, getting back in the swing of things, um, talk all the things. So, how's the off season been for you overall? Somewhat fantasy wise, somewhat not fantasy wise. We talked a bit before. You said it's been busy, um,
That
but
it's good, yeah. The fantasy wise, it has been slow, which is okay
yeah,
because maybe it kind of relates because not that I've even in the different leagues I'm in, haven't had a lot of offers, and so I haven't responded to a lot of offers either. Haven't been throwing them out there, so our league's been a little kind of quiet for the last few weeks, and so I figure probably in the next week or two we might see some people start making some
start
action
doing
as
some stuff.
you see the injuries pile up and whatnot. So.
What was the last? I don't even remember what the last trade was that happened. It's been for a while, I think, right? I mean, the last
I
one that
know.
I have is June 21st, but that's me specifically.
Oh yeah, gee, yeah,
I'm
that
not
is the last
I'm
one.
not gonna I'm not gonna scroll through Sleeper. That's a nightmare. Um, Something else we should do for our interview here is we should do a trade negotiation in the other league, just live on
Oh,
the
they got me.
air.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about that a little bit more, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't know what the last transaction was. I'm trying to see. I don't know if there's an easy way to see that. Flynn and I did a random trade, but that was a long time. I think it's just I don't know. It's been a while. I think it was the me trading Rust and Tua with Project, but that was so long
Yeah,
ago. Um,
that's what I see.
yeah, I
Is the
think
last.
yeah, I think it's that time of the year where like people have their guys, like all our stuff's done, and it's different than like the normal dynasty league where you can pick up or do this or that. Like I feel like once the rookie veteran auction happened and all that, like it's just kind of sit around and wait, um, which is nice and not nice, right? Like there's that itch, but it's also nice to not have to try to be on per se, all 12 months of the year. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
have you been like getting back in the swing of things and looking, or are you still trying to enjoy the off season a little more?
Yeah, no, I finally started looking as training camp stuff comes out, and then I look at my teams again. I'm like, oh, I have that guy on that team. I should really try to move them or try to grab this guy type thing. So I've made a couple small deals in other leagues this week, but it's definitely starting to pick up.
Well, let's take a look. We can pull up your roster here on the website and talk about it. So, not to bring up scary, potentially past memories, but your team has consistently been one of those towards the top. It just hasn't kind of gotten over that hump just yet. Um, do you kind of think this is the year early on? What is your expectation? What's your definition of success going into this year? You're in a good spot. You didn't do the blind spiral Camhun Classic where you've got no options next year. 350 in the bank coming next year. The year after that, 832. You've got a good mix of youth and experience on the team. You've got DK Metcalf, Trey McBride, Nick Chubb, Olave. So like Dak Prescott, Tyreek Hill. So you've got like the old superstars that you kind of need to get there. Some of these young guys that are coming up that should do well. Um, you know, what does this season look like for you in your head in terms of what success is?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably in the top 4 or 5 teams in my opinion. I think I've got enough kind of depth at all the different positions. I certainly don't think I'm the favorite. And you kind of asked like kind of philosophy and stuff like that. I'm pretty zen about fantasy. Like I know in the end of the day, like you could have the best team, not pointing any fingers, and you don't win. So
Right.
I just want to be in the hunt at the end.
Right.
And I've lost 2 years in the playoffs, and I think I'll knock on wood, I hopefully make the playoffs. Um, but I also kind of have a team, like you say, that I think that if I'm kind of out of it early, I've got enough interesting, fairly priced assets that I can kind of move it all for a haul, and I'd still have some young guys, so I wouldn't completely gut the team. So I've got
Right.
my options open, I think.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, I think you look at website design's terrible. Whoever made this thing, fucking miserable. But you look at some of these other teams. Dan Flash just stands out, right? $13 next year. Cam negative 316, and then 0 and 25 and 26. As I mentioned, my team went through a complete overhaul. But your team kind of has a good spike this year to next year and the year after that, and is in a contending window, right? It's not like one of these teams. I mean, Brown out negative $200 next year, and it's also not trying to rag on Rick or anything like that. But he's got a nice spike, but he's not necessarily in a contending window. Whereas you've got that with the contention. The biggest knock really on you, I would almost say, is you've got no cap space. Still have picks to do that wiggling with, but does that $1 in the bank concern you at all? I mean, you look around at the other teams, 0 for Alan, 0 for Cam. I think I'm awfully low. Code's low. So like everybody's kind of low, but does that one concern you at all, or is it not really a fear for you when you look at what you've got going on?
Yeah, it's not really a fear for me right now. I've got some guys that I can, you know, like I can cut pretty easily if I need to make a little bit of space,
Right.
or there's always the option of making deals type thing. So I've got options. I mean, I've got, if Nick Chubb actually can't come back, I'll just cut him. I know I'll take the cap hit next year, but save whatever, 40,
Yeah.
30 bucks,
Take some
whatever it
bank.
is, and that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, guys like Traylon Burks or Mike Williams, like if they're nothing, I'll either move them and take on 80% of the cap, or whatever it might take. So I've got a few options open still, thankfully. So
And you mentioned when you came into this, when we came into this conversation, the interview, you kind of mentioned you started picking it up again, looking at your roster, saying, "Oh, I have that guy, or I don't have that guy." Was there anybody that was kind of like a surprise that you almost forgot about here that you're like, "Oh, hell yeah," or "I've got to get off him while I still have a chance"? Did anybody stand out to you like that, or not so much?
um, guys that I have to get off of, I don't know. I kind of forgot that I had George Kittle again, which I was excited about, but Codes and I made that swap. I'm not even
Yeah,
sure why. He was injured in Singletary, and I was like, oh, I think I'll take the tight end value versus the running back who could get injured at any moment. And
right.
I think I've got enough depth right now at our running back that I was okay. So as far as guys that I might try to move, I'm not going to say on the stream.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, I don't blame you.
I'll
Yeah,
give away my, yeah, I really want to move that guy.
sick of this
I'll take
guy.
any.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that makes complete sense too. It's just I agree with you. It's fun, especially being in a lot of leagues like you and I both are. When you stumble upon something, you're like, oh hell yeah, that's nice. Um, definitely comes in handy. Um, let's talk about your division. I mean, your division is still a division of death, still funky. You've got two champions that have won in that division. Um, and they've both gotten stronger. You look at Brownout picked up Patrick Mahomes in the offseason, which is a giant acquisition and a very expensive one, which is pretty much the main reason why Kmigs is negative. It's pretty much half of Mahomes' hit. You also have to think about what Camhun's done in the offseason. I think he just reacquire Burrow, or am I getting things mixed up? No, but he does have Kyler is the person I'm thinking of. He went out and got Kyler. Still got Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, who are arguably dynasty and probably wide receiver 1 and 2.
Yeah.
How do you think you stack up against your division? I know you said you're fourth, fifth in the league, but where do you kind of see yourself in this division of death? Do you think that you're 1, 2, 3? Have you thought about it at all? Has their team not even been top of mind for you, or?
Well, I mean, I know Kmigs' team is still number one. Like I would never pit my team up against his, 1 for 1 down the list. I think he's got all the depth and the top tier players. I think Cam and I are probably close. I think maybe he doesn't have quite as much of the. He's got some depth on his bench too, so probably in a pretty similar chase. I think I don't know. I think Sam Darnold starting for him all year is probably not the best for Jefferson, but Jefferson played well enough last year with Dobbs or Mullins or whoever else was
Yeah.
playing. So I think I'm 2. I might be 3. Like I would say we're close anyway, but definitely not the top.
Do you think that I have a question? I want to know about this. Do you think that all three of you guys make the playoffs for the third year in a row?
I would be surprised, I guess, if we didn't.
Yeah.
I think I think that's the most likely scenario. I mean, obviously injuries can change a lot, but based on
Yeah.
the other rosters, I was kind of looking around. I think it's not. There's probably, one, two, three, four, five, six, 8 teams that have a good shot at the playoffs. So maybe not, but
So what do you think those 8 teams are? The implications, the C words, win like Flynn. Who else? I'm just kidding. So in your opinion, the 8 teams that make the playoffs, or that have a shot, I should say, at making the playoffs. What do you have as those 8?
well, yeah. So I mean, in my division, I think it's the three of us. I actually haven't looked at Flynn's team. Maybe he's not completely out of it, but probably less likely. So then Jamarcus
Flynn's
Russell.
team is so interesting because, like, in the Jamarcus Russell division, he's fighting for first place in that division. I think. Maybe I'm wrong. But I feel like he's in the mix. Whereas, in that division, he's got the statistically worst team we have.
Yeah,
So
I think he doesn't have the studs on his team right now.
yeah,
Like you kind of have to have those top end guys to really. But he's got lots of depth and lots of good players, and maybe Harrison is the truth, kind of thing.
yeah,
Um,
and some of the
I think
deals he
like
has are incredible. Like Bowers, Thomas Jr., 31, 3 years, 31's the most expensive. Michael Mayer looks a little bit rough now with Brock Bowers, but he's got Brock Bowers, so he's got the handcuff. Kendre Miller, who should do it at some point. Bigsby sketchy, and Jigba Young, Jones Harris. Like it's so interesting that it isn't working almost. It's really unfortunate he's got the Najee contract, that he had the Pitts contract, but it's
yeah,
that's a whole other conversation, I suppose.
yeah.
But for the teams that you think would make it, so you've got the 3 from your division. Um, what are the other teams that you think have a shot at it off the top? Or is it easier to say which teams you don't think have a shot at it? I guess that's half
Yeah,
the
I mean,
work.
I guess obviously your team is you've intentionally done that. I think, maybe Rick could sneak in, but his team's actually better than I thought it was.
It
Looking at
is.
it now.
It's sneaky good. It's like that's like the perfect team to win the extra pick bracket, or the perfect 101 team.
Yeah, no, that's a. I mean, I guess he's got Cooks in his starting lineup, so that's not maybe the best. So maybe he doesn't have a lot of depth. I think Chase's team is, probably a legitimate contender, and if not one of the favorites. Like I love the way he's put together his team and the players that he has, and the young guys, the young
Yeah.
receivers, young tight ends, young quarterbacks, and the veteran running backs. I think that's really, he did a really smart job. I mean, got to the team and then built it back up real quick.
Yeah.
Uh, and then
He's got some monster contracts there in the middle that get really scary. Next year, Burrow and McCaffrey combined for, what is that, $607?
yeah,
That's really scary. But it doesn't matter if you win this year, I guess.
exactly. And I don't know. He's probably got out, so you can push all that money out later and
Yep.
figure out other solutions. And I think now, like, we're kind of getting off topic from what the question is, but I think the reality of keeping players is a little more now if you just kind of put them up for basically up for auction, and everyone bids on them, and I was like, okay, well, it kind of resets their value,
Right.
rather than having to pay the $500 continuing contract type thing. So I think
Yeah.
it's a good way to do it, and I frankly, that's probably going to be me testing the waters next year. Is what is the QB market if I put Lamar up there, right? So,
Yeah.
because then it's fair market. I mean, maybe he goes for more than what I would have put down, or maybe he doesn't. But
Yeah. But the RFA tag is so good for that. I mean, I remember the reason I came up with that is because I was like, well, I want to have the ability to hold on to people, but I don't
yeah,
want to have the ability to hold on to people. Like that's kind of the idea behind it. And so I think Lamar is probably one of, if not the best impending free agent. I think would be a fair thing to say, coming
yeah.
off the incredible MVP season. So let's do this. Let's filter it down a little bit. Let's say, who do you think is the most overrated team, and who do you think is the most underrated team, and then we'll wrap this up.
Okay, so most overrated. That's a good question. I mean, I don't. I guess I don't really know how other people's perception is. I
Fair.
think. I think. I think Code's team may not be like. I think he's one of these teams that's maybe an injury away from maybe not having a good season at all. I think he's got.
Mhm.
I think he's got a good team, but I think he's kind of on the precipice of maybe not having one. I don't know who else.
Like if
You know,
Allen goes down with a knee injury type thing, or
yeah,
AJ.
like that really changes the look. You know, Hurts or something like that. Like if either of those guys. I mean, we said that about you last year, and it never happened either. So it was just kind of
Yeah, awfully lucky. It's
general
easy to
issue.
avoid the injury bug when you only have 7 relevant players on your team as well. So,
Yeah.
so you're going with codes for overrated. What about underrated?
Underrated. Oh, probably Brown out. I still look at his team and I'm just like, how does he have that team? I don't even know how that's possible. And most of his players have just gotten in better situations somehow.
Yeah.
But you know, as far as a legitimate answer, I mean, probably looking at like, I mean, I guess Chase was going to be my answer, but maybe other people realize how good his team is now as well.
Right.
And then kind of Rick too, just looking at it like, oh, that team could put together a playoff.
Yeah, they could play spoiler for someone in the last week, or they could. Yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting as we kind of went through it and looked at different teams. I was almost kind of expecting you to come back to Rick, and because I didn't realize too until we kind of did a little bit of digging in there that it is a little underrated. But you know, again, I think Rick. It's fun that Rick and Chase just did completely different styles of rebuild, and so, but they're both working. That's where it gets really fun. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that will do it. Any final thoughts or anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this bad boy?
I don't think so. You know, I'm always open for trading. If anyone's looking for kind of some kind of flex type players, I got guys that can slide into your lineup. If not, you know, I'm excited for the regular season to start. It looks like I've got Cam week 1, so
A
I'm sure
banger
I'll
right away.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah. And you said for the players you're talking about trading, which ones did you say you undervalued again? No, I was kidding. Who did you say you would take the below the market value on? Yeah. Cool. Well, good talking to you. It was fun, and looking forward to getting this season rolling here in just what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. Yeah, 3 weeks
Yeah,
almost.
3 weeks.
Three weeks from tomorrow. Yeah, it's getting there awfully quick.
Oh,
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
yeah.